Okay, so the video suggests there that having galls is what she said, a nutrient sink, energy sink. So it's as she also said, basically the effect is, it looks kind of negligible from the outside, right? So we see galls on plants and they continue to grow. So there's goldenrods with big galls on them. They still have leaves and flowers and reproduce just fine. Oak trees with galls on them still have new growth and leaves and fruits. But it does have a measurable effect on energy. So showing a difference between plants with galls on them and plants without galls have lower amounts for some of these amounts that were measured. So carbohydrates in different situations. So a little bit of an effect, enough to make a difference maybe long term. But as a parasite, so if these gall-forming insects are parasites, then it's actually in their interest not to be too harmful to their source, right? So if you killed a plant as part of parasitizing it, that might affect your chances of having a place to parasitize in the next year. So it's sort of in their best interest not to have a big effect on the thing they're eating. All right, so saw those, saw that one. Kind of an interesting thing I found a few years back. You can see evidence of these gall and leaf mining interactions way back in time. So this is 50 million years ago, a leaf fossil that shows all kinds of evidence. And this kind of made for an interesting study that they had found just so many different kinds of parasites taking over this one leaf, one fossil with lots of different evidence. It puts the pieces together for a lot of these different interactions. Other types of a little more specialized feeding. So we've seen examples of animals that are chewing, basically. There's a different kind of feeding, which is to suck out the sugar-rich juice of a plant. So taking nectar out of plants, that is the special domain of aphids and their relatives. And they're part of a group of insects that have basically a straw, a piercing straw for a feeding apparatus. So they pierce into the plant. They connect into the phloem where the sugar is, and they just kind of sit on the plant and take that sugar water out. So illustrated here, the aphid piercing in until it gets to the sugar-rich cells, and then basically like taps into that and continues to draw off the sugar water over time. And interesting kind of side effect, I mentioned this to some people who were on a field trip, that aphids will produce what we call honeydew, which is the fanciest way I've ever seen to describe poop. So their diet is rich in sugar. It's so rich in sugar that the other molecules they need, proteins and other nutrients, relative to the amount of sugar, there's not as much protein. There's some in there, but they do need that. They need sugar, but they also need water and proteins and other molecules. So they actually end up like filtering out the sugar so they can take more of the molecules that are more scarce. So the sugar is like a waste product. They have too much sugar. So they poop out liquid that is mostly sugar. And that's just their poop. It's the thing they don't need. But it is quite appealing to other animals. So there are ants that commonly will come and they say they farm these aphids. So the ants come and guard over colonies of aphids, protect them from predators, and in exchange they go around and eat up the sugar poop when it comes out. All right, just one more group of insects that are related to the aphids. I'm familiar with these as some of our greenhouse pests. So scale insects and mealybugs are also related to aphids. These are also piercing and sucking insects, as well as the whiteflies. One of the symptoms, if you have a plant that's being fed on in this way, is that there's like an abundance of sugar around. So they get sticky leaves or something like that, because the sugar is sort of a byproduct of is more than what the animals are interested in.